So welcome to the 2020 meeting of the Energy Charter Independent Accountability Panel, and thank you for the disclosure from Aurora Energy, which we have obviously read. Before we start the proceedings, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respect to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. So welcome Rebecca and Corinna. I think you know the panel. Claire Petrie, I'm the independent chair. Cassandra Goldie, CEO of ACOS, and Andrew Richards, CEO of the EUAA. I'm going to ask you to just make an introductory statement about your disclosure, things that you'd like to highlight to us, both the positives and the negatives, and where you think you are in terms of the Energy Charter. But before I do, we want to acknowledge, as we have for every CEO that we've met with, that this has been just an unprecedented year. We acknowledge that in terms of fire, flood, COVID, and that's obviously had an impact on everyone, and you may wish to refer to that. But if you'd like to now just take us through any of the highlights of your disclosure, and then we'll open it up for general discussion and questions.
Thank you, Claire, Cassandra and Andrew. Really appreciate the opportunity to share with Aurora Energy's disclosure. It is, I think your point there around this has been an unprecedented year, and I think it's probably in some ways, for those of us who have been founding signatories of the Energy Charter, you know, this has been a year where we've kind of had to put our action where our words are, so to speak, because as we know in Tasmania, and it's not dissimilar to any other state or country around the world, is, you know, we have many members of our community who really need our support. And that's been something really, really front of mind for Aurora Energy as we have navigated our way through our first and hopefully our last global pandemic. I just wouldn't mind acknowledging the huge amount of effort that has gone into the Energy Charter since its inception. Corinna, who's with me, has been part of the working group since the outset. And what I can say is myself, the board and my colleagues at Aurora Energy are passionate about this initiative. We think this is a way for all of us across the entire energy supply chain, whether that be gas or electricity, can work together to get the best outcomes for all Australians, or in our case, we're a little bit more focused on all Tasmanians. We're a Tasmanian owned and operated entity. We're passionate about Tasmanians. We're unique in that our shareholders also so happen to be our customers as well. But also I think Tasmania has its fair share of challenges in terms of our socioeconomic status, with 39% of our customers receiving some form of electricity concession. So vulnerable customers is something that's always been very top of mind for us, and how can we support vulnerable Tasmanians? And that's something that we continue to focus on. We also, our customers don't have a lot of choice. So in terms of electricity tends to be their predominant source of heating, as the gas network is not available to the majority of Tasmanians. So bill shock is something that is really top of mind, and this year has become quite pronounced, and I can talk about that more as well. And you would have noticed that we have introduced some new customer measures over the last 12 months. I think that was definitely shared in our disclosure, and that was the rationale about that was one of the learnings we have had on our journey is making sure we've got the right measures so we know we're focusing on the things that really matter for our customers. In spite of all the challenges and the surreal times that we're living in, we have actually made a lot of progress in this year. We have been able to reset our operating model, recognising that how we were organised wasn't necessarily getting the best outcomes for our customers. We've created a new role being the Chief Product and Customer Officer, recognising that you need to have that real focus on customers sitting at your executive. We have, as part of our COVID response, and the energy efficient lighting has just gone off, so my apologies. And I'm not sure how to set it back on again. Here we go. If I move enough, I've just got to do a little dance. And I think that progress has been best characterised in our response to COVID, with the board approving a $5 million COVID customer support fund early March, before any of the federal or state government announcements, as we've as a case study that's articulated in our disclosure. In addition to that, we've also supported state government initiatives. We quickly reformed our community grants to build digital capacity in not-for-profits, which is a sector that was heavily impacted by, or has been heavily impacted by COVID, to give them the ability to continue to meet, for them to provide their much needed services in shutdown. And our people, and this is, you would have seen through our disclosures, have really stepped in and demonstrated our new organisational value being customer obsessed. And this value, so when we, as part of the reset, reformed our values, our people chose the values that best support Aurora in its aspirations. And these values were created by them. And so it is just fantastic that they have really embraced that we want to be completely focused on our customers, and one of our organisational values has been customer obsession. So I think that pretty well touches on most of the points within our submission. You would have noticed we have used the new maturity statements. That's a new feature of this year. Overall, we assessed ourselves as emerging. We recognise that we still have a fair way to go, but we have a lot of aspiration. As part of our vision at Aurora Energy, we want to reimagine Tasmanians' energy experience, and in line with that is our aspiration that we will move up that maturity curve over the coming years, so we can really demonstrate our customer obsession to all our customers.
Thank you very much. Look, I might, given that you have raised the issue of bill shock and the economic situation for your customers, I might throw to Cassandra to start off the questions.
Thanks, Claire. And Becca, just to pick up a couple of things that are obviously, really great. Can I say it is great to see the collaboration you've done to create that energy advocacy capacity, with a number of other players in the sector, and whilst acknowledging conflict of interest in a sense, that it's at task cost, delighted to see that that is something that you've, helped to enable. We need more community engagement capability in this area than ever. That's the reality of it. So my first question to you is, what is the, Tasmania, we've got income support arrangements in place at the moment. We've got the COVID context, as you know, and what have you done scenario planning about what could be coming next over these 12 months as various income support measures come off in light of the economic vulnerabilities in Tasmania, and how you will respond to that.
So just Cassandra, so I understand the question. Scenario planning in regards to
To predicted
economic situation, or
we've had significant changes in income levels for lots of people in Tasmania because of the cuts to income support, you know, the coming off of JobKeeper, the predictability around, you know, number of people unemployed, and the level of income that people will have, which is quite a shock to affordability. And of course, it's been, you know, support. We've not seen it yet because the income supports have been in place, but it's here and it's coming, you know, it's not like this is a long way away. We're going to see some significant drop in affordability. And have you done any assessment of that, what that could look like for Tasmania?
no? Us making an assessment of, we wouldn't have the data to be able to do that, Cassandra. We rely on others for that. I think the challenge we all have is we're in uncharted waters. We don't know what's going to come. Whether you're in shutdown or not obviously has a key bearing on that. Borders being open and closed, and that's just me speculating. But our focus has really been on ensuring we can support all our customers, regardless of how they've been impacted by COVID, with ability. So that's why we established the 5 million COVID support fund right in the early days. We knew our customers, given the demographic, the socio-economic status of Tasmanians, we knew that small business and mums and dads would be impacted by COVID.
Yeah.
So we didn't do any modelling, we didn't do any scenario plannings, we just acted because we knew, given Tasmania and its socio-economic status, that there would be a lot of people. Tasmania has the highest number of small businesses per capita of any of the states. So we knew small business was going to be impacted. We also know, like I said in my introductory statement, that 39% of our customers, which is the highest of any state, is on some form of concession.
That's right.
So that's so we didn't do any modelling, we just acted.
Okay, and on the bad debt side of things, particularly as you say with that high level small business, scenario and what's happening on JobKeeper, for example, what does it look like at the moment? Are you able to share that with us? And have you got any plans around responding to that when some of the protections come off?
So every energy retailer in Australia, because we wear the credit exposure for the entire industry. That's the nature of the businesses we're in. So it's a key focus for us. We're managing it really, really well. And our focus has been, number one, on ensuring that we keep our customers, support our customers, we've had a number of circumstances. So during shutdown, we had estimated reads. So that was based on last year. During shutdown, people were working, living, homeschooling. So we saw increased consumption, which would be no different to any other state or territory. It was winter. So we had this. So we did see, as actual reads came through, a high incidence of bill shock for a large proportion of our customers. So the focus has been really on supporting those customers, making sure that we can, through our COVID support fund and other mechanisms, so our Your Energy support program, as well as any other mechanism, to manage that, because we really just want to take away the worry. There's, energy is just one of many things that's causing people anxiety at the moment. We're trying to minimise that anxiety because that will ensure the an improved community health and well-being as we navigate through this global pandemic. So that's probably been our real key focus. I think we will continue to focus through this for as long as we need to. So sorry.
Yeah, no, that certainly gives an idea of where you're at with that. Can I just then ask, because of course we've got this really, important development of the new affordability tool, the online, and you've also created a further sort of community engagement process, which is, the sort of thing that is obviously extremely welcome. Have you had feedback about the usability of the affordability tool, particularly for more vulnerable customers? And have you done any assessment about the digital access, the digital divide problem, and how you're planning to respond to that to ensure there is equity of outcome? Because of course the affordability tool is the most important for people who are most likely to not be able to access it online.
So, Cassandra, you're talking about our Aurora Plus product. Is that what you're talking?
Well, you talked about in your disclosure about sort of the new affordability tools online and.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So what we one of the things we did was making sure customers are on the right plan. So we've put onto our website more mechanisms to enable customers to quickly and easily assess, or am I on the right plan for the circumstances with our home. We've also brought to market this year a new product called Aurora Plus, which leverages the data that Advanced Meters provides to give customers greater visibility of what's going on with their home. So that, because the key cause of shock is
which was great because you flagged both of those in your discussion. I was just inviting you to comment on whether you've had any feedback from your consumer groups about how that's going, and then specifically about the sort of people who can't access those tools online, what your strategy is there. Thank you.
So when we designed the product, we designed the product with customers. And we had a strong involvement with our consumer consultative group in doing that, because what we did in the last year was move from a very bespoke pay-as-you-go product to pay-as-you-go plus that's now morphed into Aurora Plus. So in the original design of the product, we've had customers involved, we've had the consumer consultative group, and they continue to provide us feedback today. The most recent addition to that product has been enabling Aurora Plus customers to set up their own payment plans to enable them to come up with doing that themselves. And that again has been designed in consultation with customers to ensure that, and that's kind of baked into our process. We don't design products in isolation. We do that in collaboration with our customers and with the forums. We do have also, in terms of the digital divide, so when we designed Pay-As-You-Go Plus, for example, we engaged with Coda, so recognising that for customers where they gave us great feedback around font size, making sure people who, like myself, who's a little vision impaired can see that and whatever. But I think the key thing is we also recognise this is a purely optional product, and we make sure that we have alternatives. So if customer would still prefer to get a paper-based bill, they can do that at no cost. So if they want to continue to pay their bill at their local Australia Post, they can still do that. The Aurora Plus product is there for those who are a bit more digital savvy, who can embrace that, and we're not, what's the word for it? We're not forcing customers to make a choice whether or not they have to be digitally savvy or not. They can choose what best suits them.
Thanks, Claire. Thank you, Rebecca. Thanks.
Okay. Andrew.
Rebecca, how are you?
I'm really good, Andrew.
Thanks for your disclosure statement, your continuing support for the Charter. It's fantastic. One of the questions I have for participants is, while you're embedding or seeking to embed the Charter principles inside your own business and within your direct control, you also have, I'm imagining, a range of third parties external to your business, but you also have touch points with customers on your behalf, whether they be subcontractors or others. So in the same way you'd be seeking to embed a health and safety requirements on them, are you also seeking to embed a custom-centric culture through that as well? And how are you going about that?
That's a really good point, Andrew. And I know when we went with the metering competition rule changes back a couple of years ago, when we went out to tender for our metering coordinator, one of our key requirements was that customer centricity, recognizing that it's the entire, the customer experience is the entire experience from the moment your meter is connected right through to when you have your last read or you receive your last bill. So I think that's a really, really good point. And that's something that we continue to advocate and work with our partners to ensure that that end-to-end experience. The feedback we get from customers is that there is nothing worse than being saying, well, that's the network provider's responsibility, or that's the metering provider's responsibility. And I know we're all customers, and you know, if you've ordered something online, they don't tell you that it's the, you know, Australia Post fault if your product hasn't arrived. And as an industry, I think we've always had a bit of a tendency to point fingers, which doesn't help a customer. So that's something worth working on. Do we have it sorted? No, there's always more work to do, Andrew, but it is something that's definitely top of mind. It is something where we work with our key suppliers and service providers and saying, how can we create an end-to-end experience? And the year before last, we actually hosted a full day workshop with every single participant that's involved in the metering, which is actually, I couldn't get over how many people are involved in getting just hanging a meter on the wall. There is a lot. We got them all in a room and did an end user, well, how can we ensure that experience is great end to end? And there was a huge amount of ideas that came out of that workshop. We're still working our way through them, and there is a lot more we can do.
Okay. I mean, one of the things that takes me, I'm taken by your disclosure, is that you are quite open about where the gaps are. And perhaps going forward, maybe you don't know what you don't know as well. So it's part of that process of continuing to going back to customers and others. So thanks for that. The other question that I have, and again, I think you're in a bit of a unique situation, is around net zero emissions by 2050. And being on the Apple Isle, you're probably net zero emissions by 1950, let alone 2050.
Not quite, but yeah.
But you know, there's this transition going on. So rather than, and we're asking people about what the risks that the energy industry face in moving to that, and how much of that risk gets blown back onto customers. And perhaps if you see risks, then please sort of talk about that. But in your circumstance down in Tassie, is it more around where are the opportunities and how you're going to explaining those opportunities and maybe working into some sort of collaborative and partnership arrangements with customers as part of this journey?
Yeah, that's something we're starting to explore. And you're right, you know, the state government's come out in the last 12 months with an aspiration that, you know, will be 200%, not even 100%, and renewable. So for us, we're very lucky that the product we sell is largely carbon neutral today. So what's the opportunity in that? What can we do with our customers to use energy in maybe different ways versus just reducing it? But we're also cognizant of the fact, Andrew, for a large majority of our customers, energy affordability is still number one. It's really top of mind. So the key focus for us is, as we move forward and in that trajectory, is making sure that we are doing everything in our power to keep energy affordability achievable. And that, so, you know, this year, because our prices, Tassie is a little unique, we still have regulated prices, and the Tasmanian Economic Regulator sets our standing offer prices. So we saw a 1.38% reduction this year. And, you know, working with that, and we've been able to work with a lot of our C&I customers as they have dealt with COVID, to ensure that they can recontract even if their contract was due, so they could take advantage of the lower wholesale prices. So, you know, our real focus, immediate focus, has been really on energy affordability. But I think once we kind of get through the circumstances we're in, what is that opportunity is definitely an area that we will explore. But I think for FY21, it'll probably still be 99% energy affordability.
Yep, fair enough.
Just on that, Rebecca, you talked about being passionate about the Energy Charter. So I'd be interested to just you to talk a little bit more about that. But are you involved in the Better Together initiatives? And if so, which ones? One CEO suggested that there might be too much going on, and that there might be a need to prioritise some of the initiatives in that area. And if so, where would you think that the industry and the Charter and the Better Together initiatives should really focus their effort over the next couple of years, as being the most important areas to concentrate on?
So it's a good question, Claire, and I haven't been specifically involved in any of the Better Together, but we have been involved in two of the initiatives, one around COVID response and another around concessions. So members of the team have been involved in those. Look, I think as an industry, we all recognise we've still, well, I believe, as we've disclosed, is we've got a lot more to do to really live those 5 principles within the Energy Charter. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. I think our customers have been saying to us for a long time, and we may not have heard it well enough, that there's more we need to do. And I think the Energy Charter, because it is a whole of industry, enables us to do that. Is there too many initiatives? I don't know. I haven't thought that myself, Claire. Mm-hmm. Is there a lot to do? Probably, and it probably reflects that. Should we do several of them really well versus double that poorly? I would always say sometimes less is more if you do it well. So that's just my off-the-cuff observations. But I do think us all working together, and that's been really evident to me in Tasmania. So Aurora Energy is the only member of the Energy Charter in Tasmania. However, how we have come together as an industry as COVID has evolved. So my colleagues at Tas Networks, my colleagues at Hydro Tasmania, my colleagues at Tas Water and Tas Gas, we've come together as a utility group and ensured that we've supported our customers, because, you know, we're all in this unique position where our focus is only Tasmanian customers. We've really come together and worked really hard. We've done joint media, we've coordinated, and we will coordinate further in terms of outbreak management and things like that, to ensure that we get the best outcomes and we support Tasmanians through these really challenging times. And that's, you know, that's a lot easier in Tasmania. and I've worked in other jurisdictions that are similar to Tasmania, where it's just far easier than, say, in the eastern states. And I think the Energy Charter is one of those unique opportunities where you can do that, whether you're in Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland, or Tasmania.
And just conversely, what would you expect to see this panel call out for the next year? Where would you think our priorities would be, or you would expect to see mentioned in our report?
For Aurora Energy, Claire, or more?
No, generally.
Generally.
Oh, both, perhaps.
I would be hopeful that you would be encouraging us to continue to put the time and the investment into the 5 principles. The Energy Charter is still in its infancy. This is only the 2nd year, and I think it's really important that it gets the momentum. So I would be hopeful that yourselves will call out to us to, encourage us to continue to putting in the effort. And if we're doing too much and you feel I think that just demonstrates the passion and the commitment of all of the signatory bodies. I think you should also hold us to account if you feel that we're maybe not pushing ourselves enough, or we're in our maturity statements maybe saying we're maybe a little bit further along than we're not, but we've all independently done our maturity assessments, our self-assessments. I know the discussion we had as an executive when we first looked at it, it was quite heated around the table around where we were. And some may have thought we were a little bit advanced, and some of us might have thought we were a thing. And it was actually probably one of the best conversations we've had as an executive group, because we got to compare, contrast and reflect and go, actually, when you consider all of that, we're probably emerging. And yes, our aspiration is definitely there, but we're not quite there yet. And I think that's really powerful. And I think how yourselves can assist us in either challenging us or encouraging us to do more for customers, because the only good can come from that.
Thank you.
And we spoke to your customer council or customer group. Would they agree?
We actually engaged them with our maturity assessment and asked for their feedback. I think the feedback we got, I wasn't actually in the room, Andrew, but what I understand is they were in agreement around how we assessed ourselves. They didn't feel, we didn't get any opinion that I understand to say we're over or under, and that was with the Tasmanian Small Business Council as well. I think they thought it was a fair assessment. Maybe individuals within there might have a different perception around what we could do. I think one of the things we all realise in Tasmania is there is always more you can do. When you have a high proportion of your state people who are in need, it is always very much front of mind. There is more you can do, and it's always choosing, well, what's the next thing we need to invest in and do to support Tasmanians. And so we did share it. We did get their feedback. And I think everyone was in agreement that overall, yeah, we're in that emerging maturity and there is a lot more to do. And we will continue to work towards that. Whether we'll achieve our aspirations in the timeframes, I'm really hopeful we will, but I'm also a realist because, 12 months ago, I wasn't planning for a global pandemic.
And Rebecca, you can see, we've got this quite significant increase in the Yes Hardship Customer Program. And just on the Better Together side of this work, I think the panel is very conscious of responding appropriately to the new environment that we are now in. Things are different to what they were 12 months ago. And nobody wants to just be busy doing stuff. So any view you've got that you would share with us about where the charter signatories should be working hardest together to try and deliver better for the customers in light of what they're now facing?
It's a big question. So just mind if I just have a moment?
Of course. No, of course.
Think about it, because it is a really big question. And I think it does need time to dwell on. I think where we are at the moment demonstrates how important that we work together as an energy industry, but actually even more broadly than that. So as I shared with you, we've been working in collaboration with all the utility providers, both gas and water down here. And I actually think what COVID has showcased is, from a customer's perspective, if they are in need of, if they're experiencing hardship and they need support, they don't need to have to knock on 20 different doors. That support needs to be coordinated and easy and accessible regardless. So I think my observation on COVID to date is, how can we all come together, not just as an industry, but across all of that, and work with the TASCOSs and the ACOSs and the other representative groups to do that in a much more seamless and customer-centered manner. So
yes,
if you're a mum and dad, both lost, you're no longer eligible for some government assistance and you're struggling, it's not just the energy bill you're worried about, it's everything. So how do we do that? How can we make that easy and without you having to engage with your energy provider, engage with your gas provider, engage with your phone provider, engage with your water provider, engage with your housing provider, engage with you. I think that, just thinking about your question, for me, that would be probably something I would say is probably the most important. And the better we can do that and the easier we can do that, that would probably have the biggest impact.
Would you see that as being essentially a new agenda in the context of the charter work, as amongst the signatories?
I think it's broader than the charter.
Sure, but in terms of it as an agenda for signatories to then work collaboratively in the way you absolutely, I think it's a really great point. About a more customer focus is, all those bills on the essentials. It's like, which one today is the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just one.
Right. I think you're also talking about partnerships.
Yeah.
And I just wondered if you could talk a little bit more about your funding of the TASCOS Energy Advocate. I think that's fairly unusual, isn't it, for an energy company to directly fund? And I just wonder how that came about and whether you see it as an ongoing relationship. I think it's extremely important, and particularly in Tasmania, where advocacy resources are relatively, constrained. Just your view on where you see that partnership going in the future?
We've always had a really strong working relationship with TASCOS and the advocate role. Unfortunately, the funding source for that role changed, as we all know. Getting funding sources when you're a not-for-profit can be really challenging at times. So when that happened and we were approached by TASCOS with Hydro Tasmania and Tas Networks, it was actually not a very complicated decision. All three parties were more than happy to do that because we see the value of having a dedicated resource within the TASCOS who can work with us and also their members to discuss it. And probably my observation, especially with energy, is it's pretty complicated, Claire, as you would know. It's one of those understanding how network pricing happens, how retail pricing happens, wholesale pricing. Well, it's not something for the faint-hearted. So I think having someone, a dedicated role, so that partnership relationships for 3 years. It's only just started. They've just recruited to the role, so they'll be starting in the new year. So we're looking really forward to doing that. And look, it just makes sense for us, Claire, because it's someone we can work with, get the feedback, but also get a shared understanding of the problems we're trying to solve from both perspectives.
Well, thank you. And that's probably a very positive note to end on, given that we're out of time. Unless Cassandra and Andrew, you have any other urgent questions. That's been very helpful. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you very much.
And
Sandra, lovely to talk to you.
We will talk to you again as part of the, once our report is completed.
Looking forward to the feedback, and I hope the rest of your day goes well.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Rebecca and Karina.
Thank you.